Okay guys, welcome back to episode, who knows what number this is. Today we're going to be working on two things. The first one is we just need to fix the spacing between some of our cards on our game board. And then we want to actually go and start working on some of the logic of the game. So this is where it starts getting a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to try and explain it as much as I can to try and help it make more sense, a lot easier. But we'll see how that goes. Maybe I make it sound a lot easier than it should, or maybe I make it sound a lot harder than it should. Who knows? We'll get into it and see what it's like. So let's jump straight into the game. And let's work on that spacing quick. So I'm just going to go and play the game quick. Okay, so let's see. Easy. We need to try and make we need some spacing in between the cards so that we can actually see that there's different cards here. So at the moment, our cards our game board has a spacing of 5. So let's go and change that. Let's go and see if we can set up our game scene. Set up our game board so it has a spacing of about 10 by 10. We'll save that, and then we can go back to our level scene and see what this looks like. So let's pick easy. So okay, so we have a little bit of a spacing there. Let's try, or let's fix it in our game board and see what it looks like. So let's change this to 15 by 15. The problem is, by changing this over here, it is going to change the layout of our medium. So we might have to do something else. So let's go to our card button. On our card button, we should have what is it? An animation. Okay, we don't. So let's go click on our hover. We need to can't do that. Okay, so highlighted. What is it? It's going to be highlighted. No, hover, normal pressed. Okay, so this is going to scale from, let's change this to 0.95. So we'll change it like that, 0.95. We'll save that, and then we will go back into our scene view here, go back to our game, and let's see if this makes any difference. So pick easy. Okay, so we have a bigger gap between them, which is good. So now we can go back onto our game scene, into our game board, and put that spacing back to 5, and hopefully that will be big enough. Otherwise we'll have to put it back to 10. So let's go level scene, select. Let's play the game again and see medium. Okay, so now we've got a much better spacing, so that's good. Our animation's working nicely. We've got that big spacing that we wanted to. Our cards are letting us click them, which is good. Also, something I do want to fix is when we play our hard menu, our hard game, you can see that our cards are actually going off the scene. So these ones here, this one is card 49, which means that if we look on our game board, we are only seeing up to card 49. So from 50 all the way down to 99, we are not seeing these, because if you look in our scene view, they are all over here. So what we're going to do is we want to go and change this. So let's see. At the moment, our card size is, well, our cell size is set as 180 by 250. So let us go and scale this down so that we can have all our cards in the scene. So 180, let's go 180 divided by 2. That's fine. We'll try that. And then let's go and say 250 divided by 2. So we'll set this as to 120 maybe by 130. 150. Yeah, I think we could do with that. So let's write those down. So for our cell size, let me just write this down. 120 by 150. Okay, so we are going to put that back to what it was. So I mean, it doesn't look the best, but I mean, the part of the series is just mainly to get the actual gameplay working and not make it look fantastic. So let's go and do that quick. In our add buttons here, where is it? So whenever we create a button, we want to change the size of it if we are playing the hard level. So here we can go and say, if I can remember this correctly, let's go and say if global.level is equal to global.hard level. Here we want to go and change the size of the cell, so we can go and say game board dot cell, what is it, dot get component, I think. That is going to be a, what is it going to be? Let's have a look and see. Jump onto our game scene. Game board is going to be a grid layout group. So we need to get the grid layout group dot cell size, and we need to set that equal to a new new vector 2, and we said it's going to be equal to 120 by 150. Okay, so let's go and see if this does resize our cards. So we'll save that and let's go and play the game. So we'll have to go back into our level select scene. So let's go and check if the other ones are working first. So easy, that's fine. Do this again. Medium shouldn't do anything, that's fine. And hard, hopefully this resizes them. Okay, so that does resize them. So now you can see all of our cards here are on the screen. We can see card 99 flipped, and if we pick the first one, we can see that card 0 flipped. So 0 to 99 is obviously 100, which means there is 100 cards on the scene. So that's great. Let's go save that. Correction, you can't save in gameplay mode. So now what we want to do, let's go ahead and start working on some of the logic. So what we want to do is we want to, in our controller, so our game manager here, we need to assign some pictures to our cards. So if you remember at the beginning of the series, we imported some pictures wherever they are, Halloween game assets. So they are. So these are all of the bat, the car, the bat, the cat, the house, the pot, the pumpkin, the witch on broom, and the wolf. So those are all of the pictures that we will use to when we flip the card. So now we need to figure out a way to assign these pictures to these cards. So for that, let's go ahead and create a new folder here first called resources. Or we'll call it cards. Okay, and then just because to make this easier, I'm going to select all of our cards that we will use: cat, the house, the pot, the pumpkin, the witch on the broom, and the wolf. And I'm going to drag those all into our cards. So there they are. Okay, so now that we've got all of those, we can go and start collecting these or importing them in our script. So to do that, we want to create a list here, and we'll call this private. This is going to be a private, what is it going to be? It's going to be sprite. A list of sprites, so we'll do that. And we'll call this, what are we going to call it? Let me just check mine. We're going to call it pictures. It's nice and simple. So pictures. Like that. So now we are going to have to assign our pictures into this array of sprites. To do that, we need to do this at the very beginning. So we are going to call our awake method. So bring that in here. And to do this, we have to call resources.load. So we need this. So we'll copy that, paste that in there. And now we need to rename this to whatever our file location is. So this is going to go and look for all the sprites from a certain file location. So in here, we need to pass in our file location. So this needs to be, what does it need to be? First, here we need to say pictures is equal to resources.load all of the sprites at this location. So here we need to go and say, what do we call it? We called it cards. Cards. Actually, we need to call it, we'll say sprites / cards. Okay, so the name cards does not exist in the current. Okay, so let's see. Let's save that, and then let's go into our assets. Well, our assets here. We need to create a new folder, and this will be called resources. And then in our resources, I am going to drag in our cards into there. And then I think we just need to get rid of this, like that. Or rather, let's do this. Sprites. And then in here, we will say cards. Does that fixes it, kind of. So we'll save that. Okay, so now let's go and play the game, and you should be able to see when we are in our game scene. I think it's on our game board. No, it's not on our game manager. We should have a cards. Let's make that private quick. Where is it? Public rather. Public, so we can see it. So here you should be able to see a public list of pictures. So whenever we play our game, hopefully we get this is populated with all of our pictures, which it is. So we have our bat, we have our cat, our house, pot, pumpkin, and so on. So that's great. So now we need to create another list. Let's go ahead and make, actually we'll leave that public for now. Okay, so here now we want to make another list of cards so that we can go into our game, figure out how many cards are in the game or in the scene or in the level or whatever you call it. Once we've got that number, say there's 10 cards in the list, we only need to get the first 5 pictures from our list, and then using those 5s we will populate our cards in the scene with those 5. And because this is a memory game, obviously there is going to be a duplicate of every picture. So instead of just having 5 cards, they will only be 5 unique cards. Rather, they will be 10 cards in total. So let us go and do that. So in here, in our game manager, we need to create another. Let's call it public for now. What am I doing? So we need to create another. What's it called? Why is this? Okay, so let's go and say public. This is going to be called, first of all, it's going to be a list. And this is going to be a list of game objects, I think. We will call this card buttons, I don't know, you can call it whatever you want. We'll call it card buttons for now, and then we will say equals new list. Rather, this needs to be a list of buttons, obviously, because we are going to be populating our buttons. So button. Okay, so that's fine. So now we need to go and say in our, where is it? In our start method here, we need to go and get all of these pictures. Well, first we need to determine how many pictures we need. So let's create another method here and call this public, or let's call it private for now. Private void get pictures. Okay, so in here we need to get a count of how many buttons there are, but in this case we don't, because when we select a game we actually assign a number to our level here, and that is equal to how many cards we have, so we can use that straight away. So let's go and say global dot, or let's say, actually we can just skip a step here. So we can say int index is equal to 0. And then here we can say if, what are we going to say? If, or rather, let's go and say for int I is equal to 0, 0 like that, and then I is equal to, or is less than global dot level. And then obviously you want to iterate through these, so we'll say int, or rather I plus plus, so we can add 1 to I whenever we've gone through this. So in here, so now that we've got all of our cards, we're going to go through each card and do something. But the thing is, we only need to go through half of these because, like I said, there's going to be a duplicate of every card, so they only need to have half the number of cards that are actually in the board. So here we can go and say we need a way of checking when we have reached the halfway point. So we can, for this, we can go and say if the index is equal to our global dot level, then we can go and reset our index. So index is going to be equal to 0. So to explain this, we can go, actually this is wrong. So what we're going to do over here at the moment, we are currently saying if the index is equal to the global dot level. So in other words, if we're playing the easy game, if we get to the index equal to 20, I think it is, how many cards there are? 20, yeah. So if there are 20 games or 20 cards, then when we reach that 20 number integer, we will go ahead and reset it. But that's not what we want. We want to do this at a halfway point, so we can go and divide this by 2. So I'm going to try and explain this a little bit better now using a little bit of illustration. So let's go and show my screen brush. That's not what I want. So we don't want that. So here we want a brush. Okay, so let's say that we have eight cards in our game. So let's say 1 card, 2 cards, 3 cards, 4 cards, and then we have another 4 here. And just ignore the shapes of them. Okay, so for these ones here, these are all going to be from index 0 to 3, and then these ones are going to be from 4 to 7, I think. 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah, 4 to 7. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go through all of our cards, or our pictures in this case, and as soon as we get to our as soon as we get to our 4th card, we want to go and reset this so that when we get to our 5th index card in our list, we want to go and get the same picture that we assigned to this card and populate the list in from the 4th one, the 5th one, the 6th one, and 7th one, if that makes sense. So if we go and do this in numbers terms, let's do this like this. So say our index is equal to 0 and our global is equal to 8. So 8 divided by 2 is going to be equal to 4. Okay, so that's not equal. So we can go ahead and add 1 to our index. So we'll get the picture that's at index 0. So if we add 1 to our index, that becomes 1, and now 1 is equal to 4. So that is not equal. So then we go ahead and get the picture from index at 1, and then if we add another 1 to index, so we get index is equal to 2, so 2 is equal to 4. That's still not equal, so we can go ahead and do the same thing. So it ends up being 3 is equal to 4. That's not equal. but then we get to 4 is being equal to 4. So now this one here is equal, well, 4 is obviously equal to 4, so they're the same. So when we get here, you can see that we already have our 4 unique cards here. So when we get to the 5th index one, now that they are both equal, we have to go and reset this value back to our first one so that we get the same card that is at index 0. So when this eventually does work, we eventually at the end have 0 is equal to 4 again, and then 1, 2, 3 is equal to, like that. So by the end of the code that gets run, we have one stack of our 4 different cards, and then we will have another stack of the same 4 different cards. So we will have 2 stacks of the 4 same cards. So hopefully that makes sense, and that is, I mean, yeah, it is kind of complicated, but if you think about it, it's not too bad. There probably is a simpler way of doing that, but for now we'll leave it like this. So let's go and hide this and carry on with this thing. So let's go here, and now that we have figured this out, we need to go and add these cards or these pictures to our list. So here we can go and say, what do we call it? We called it card buttons. So here we'll say card buttons dot add, and then we want to get our picture, so add picture at the index, like that. And then after this we want to, what are we doing, pictures, I cannot convert from Unity sprite to UI button. Okay, let's see, button, okay, so this needs to be changed to sprite. If I can type that quickly, so sprite, so that should be fine. So obviously after that we need to go and iterate our index by adding 1 to it, so we'll save that. So now that we've done that, we can go and get our pictures. So let's say get pictures. So here we will simply call get, what do we call it, get pictures. Does that work? Change that to a capital and that to a capital, just like that. So hopefully that's fine. So now let's save that and go into here and hopefully see this work. So I don't know if this is going to work. The logic is correct, I think. So let's see if it works. So easy, we index out of range. Okay, so let's see, game manager, card button 7. So index out of range, index was outside the bounds of the array. Okay, so line 50, let's see. Okay, so global.level, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so int I is equal to 0, I is less than the global. Okay, so I know what the problem is here. So the problem is that because we have so many cards in our scene, this is not going to work. So what I'm going to do, just to demonstrate that this does actually work, is I am going to change the size of our levels quickly. So this I am going to set to 8. And then, yeah, we'll leave that like that for now, and then we'll come back and change that when I've made some more pictures. So let's go and see if this works. So now that there is the right amount, we should, okay, so there we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pictures, well, 8 cards. We didn't get any errors. So let's go and see in our game manager. Cool, so here you can see our card button. So at index 0 we have a bat, and the first index we have cat, the house, the pot, and then we have and then we have them repeat again. So we now have our bat, our cat, our house, and our pot. So that's what we want. So we have a duplicate of every card that has been chosen, which is great. And works nicely. So now the only thing left to do is go and assign our cards these values, but we will do that in the next episode, because I need to go and create some more cards just so that we can get all of our levels working. Otherwise, if we only have the 7 cards, I think it is, they're not going to work. So that is it for today's episode. So hopefully that made a little bit of sense. I know it is getting a little bit more complicated, but I hope that I explained it correctly and in an easy way that you could understand it better. So yeah, I will go ahead and make some more cards just so we can get our different levels working with the different cards, and we don't get that error. I probably will only end up adding some different color backgrounds into the cards so that they make them a little bit unique. But yeah, that's it for this episode. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. So goodbye.